When I first got into shooting video, this was my first camera. And when I bought it, Canon had a stranglehold on the small form factor video market, thanks to the 5D Mark II's amazing success 2 years prior in 2008. The Mark III in 2012 was a solid incremental upgrade, but since its release, the marketplace has changed a lot, and Canon's dominance has absolutely been challenged. So can the Mark IV hold its own against the stiff competition that has sprung up from Panasonic, Sony, and even Fujifilm? Let's find out.
Massdrop is hosting a drop for the Hi-Fi Man HE350 headphones, which you can get for $99.99 US. Check it out at the link in the video description.
Let's take a quick physical tour of the camera. On the right we have 2 memory slots, 1 SD and 1 compact flash. On the top we find the hot shoe, settings display, and controls for focus and exposure, as well as the mode dial here. On the left of the camera we have a flash connector, mic in, a headphone jack, mini HDMI out, unfortunately this is a worthless connector, and USB. The rear of the camera has a shiny 3.2-inch touchscreen, quick access buttons, a joystick, a mode dial, and a larger menu selection and settings dial. So then out of the box, the Mark IV will feel very familiar to anyone who has used a mid-tier or better Canon DSLR, but with some welcome additions. The first usability change that really stood out to me was Canon's new integrated touch interface. Whatever Apple might say, a smartphone is not a replacement for a DSLR, but that doesn't mean we can't learn from them. Using the touchscreen like I would on my phone to set focus points to wherever I wanted in the frame quickly is awesome, and became second nature in both video mode and live view for stills. And on that subject, live view, which I've always avoided for stills on Canon cameras due to its sluggishness and inaccuracy, was surprisingly usable. I shot portraits of a friend's newborn, and in order to get some of the top-down shots that I wanted, I had to hold the camera in front of me in such a way that I could only see the camera's display enough for composition, trusting that focus would be taken care of by the camera's dual pixel AF. And to my surprise, all of these photos came out sharp, even with my unintentional changes in distance between each shot. So beyond being a convenient way to choose your focus point, the phase detection AF allows you to use your camera at awkward angles where it's very uncomfortable or even impossible to look through the viewfinder, with a stronger confidence that the camera will nail focus for the shot. Moving on to video mode, instead of being only fixated on image quality in this review, I wanted to push the camera, its AF in particular, to see if I could find success in situations that would normally be very difficult as a solo operator. So I put the Mark IV on my GlideCam and did a tracking shot on a 35mm lens at f1.8, and oh my god, this is awesome. The Mark IV managed to keep Luke in focus even as he was running away in this shot. Now I know this isn't a new technology from Canon, but this is the first time phase detection AF was put into a 5D, and it has never been better. It isn't perfect, and while shooting with the Mark IV, I did find scenarios that made it stumble, but what impressed me even then is how natural it looked when recovering from its stumbles. It managed to look much more human than any autofocus I've seen in any other camera. This is the kind of feature that can legitimately make you look like a better camera operator, and even compensate for not having a focus puller in certain situations. On top of the performance benefits of the touchscreen paired with the AF, the menus in the 5D are a breeze to navigate. No more needless scrolling through the same 5 menus only to click through the wrong one and accidentally click out and start all over again. These two are the kinds of little things that can speed up your workflow while shooting, leading to ultimately better results. Let's move on to Canon's sensor for the 5D. This time around, we're looking at a 30.4 megapixel CMOS sensor with an ISO range of 100 to 32,000. On paper, it's a very nice bump up in stills resolution from the Mark III, though we'll get more into that later, with a slew of new video recording modes, including DCI 4K up to 30 FPS. Shooting video on the 5D brought me back to the beginning of my career. Canon hasn't lost the relative simplicity in the menus compared to my current daily driver, the Sony a7S II, and they've even managed to add quick functions that don't take over your entire live view, like on previous cameras. So you can finally change settings like white balance, resolution, frame rate, and audio levels, all without leaving the live view of the camera. Thumbs up, Canon. Which leads us to a common thumbs down that many have brought up when looking over the initial specs of the Mark IV. When shooting 4K video, the Mark IV has a 1.64 crop of its full frame sensor, making its effective size roughly similar to an APS-C sensor like my Canon 60D. But while I understand the disappointment, I also understand that there were probably engineering challenges associated with shooting full frame 4K. And anyway, I don't agree that this should be the top criticism of this camera. Because while I shoot with a full frame 35mm field of view on the A7S II, I actually prefer the look of a 1.6 crop for a lot of my projects. So when shooting with the Mark IV, I actually was quite pleased with the extra reach I got from my lenses. I was even able to use one of my favorite lenses, the Sigma 18-35 f1.8, which normally doesn't work on a full frame camera. A far bigger issue for me is Canon's decision to use motion JPEG as the internal codec in 4K. This is an ancient codec that is basically only intra-frame compression, so it's far less efficient than something like the XAVC inter-frame compression in the A7S II. To put some real numbers to this, the data rate for this codec is 500 megabits per second. So on a 64 gig card, I was getting 16 minutes of record time at 4K in 24 FPS. Compare that to the hour and 10 minutes I normally get from the A7S II on the same card. It should be obvious that aspiring video creators will be asking for a lot of SD cards and hard drives for Christmas this year. Honestly, it feels like they kneecapped it on purpose to avoid competition with their video cameras. The Mark IV still only outputs 1080p over HDMI, so any hopes of bypassing the internal codec for 4K video can be put to rest. The one redeeming quality the 5D has is the internal recorded footage looks better straight off the camera than the A7S II. In this shot blown up to 400%, the Canon has the edge in overall detail. And in my opinion, Canon's color science is more pleasing and easier to work with than Sony. That said, the camera has no internal log profile limiting its overall dynamic range, so I ended up shooting most of this footage in neutral to get the most out of the sensor without having to use an externally made profile like CineStyle from Technicolor. On the still side, the Mark IV is, as expected, excellent. Raw photos have improved underexposure recovery, particularly in the shadows, something that the Mark III struggled with depending on your image. And over the several shoots I did with the Mark IV, it performed exactly as I expected, which allowed me to forget I was even using it and focus on shooting. Images are sharp and ISO performance has managed to improve quite a lot as well. So in conclusion, the Mark IV is the new generation embodiment of what has always been Canon's goal with the 5D line. It's a full-frame workhorse stills camera that has a video mode for the casual or prosumer video enthusiast, and it's very good at what it does, stills. But if you're hoping for another Mark II, a revolutionary and affordable jack-of-all-trades camera, then I'm sorry to say that if the Mark IV is anything to go on, that was entirely unintentional and it's not going to happen again.
The Zero-Tech Dobby drone. A product whose name really doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? So Zero-Tech might imply that there's no technology, but it actually has a ton in it. Dobby, well, I'm sure if we put a sock on it, it wouldn't fly away to its freedom. And drone, okay, they got that part right. So it's a selfie drone that fits and folds into your pocket with specifications including a quad-core processor, 2 gigs of RAM, an Adreno 330 GPU, a 13-megapixel camera with a 75-degree field of view that can film 1080 video. So you let Dobby take off from the palm of your hand. It pairs with Zero-Tech's Do.Fun app, which has built-in tutorials on how to take aerial selfies, and you share the photos you capture with the drone in real time. So the drone can follow and film moving people or objects to get the shots you want, and using outdoor GPS tracking, you can film 10-second auto-track short videos. It's got a price tag of $399 US on Amazon.com, and you can check that out at the link in the video description.
So thank you guys for watching. If this video sucked, you know what to do, but if it was awesome, get subscribed, hit that like button, or check out the link to where to buy the stuff we featured in this video at B&H in the video description. Also linked in the description is our merch store that has cool shirts like this one, and our community forum, which you should totally join. Now that you're done doing all that stuff, you're probably wondering what to watch next, so click that link in the top right-hand corner to check out the video I did on the Ursa Mini 4.6K.